Hi everyone, I'm Emily Leeks and this video is about the reflexes in somatic movement. So in somatic movement we learn to understand the reflexes and how they show up in our own individual patterns. Thomas Hanna, who came up with somatics, described 3 reflexes, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about each one just to give you an idea. And I'll show you a little bit about what they look like, a little bit exaggerated, but you'll get the idea. And if you want to play along, have a go, please do. Just if you do that, just take it gently, stay within your capacity. So the first reflex we're going to look at is the green light reflex. And this is all about taking action. It's all about go, 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 get things done. And I think we can all relate to that to some extent. And what happens in our body when we need to get things done, maybe we think, oh goodness, I should be somewhere, something like that. We get a tightening in our lower back, so we arch our lower back and our shoulders are pulled back, so our chest and our belly is sticking out. And our feet turn out, so our hips, our knees, our feet all sort of point a little bit outwards. We've got contraction in our glutes, in our buttocks, and as our shoulders pull back, our arms come out as well. So what you might notice is contraction in your back. You're extending in the back, and often you might think of extending in the back as pulling your head back as well. But because we're living beings, we actually look towards where we want to go. And what we end up with is this very sort of front open, back contracted sort of posture, and it's a little bit like standing to attention, So if you're the kind of person who is sort of very, you've got a lot going on and you're always rushing about, you might find some of this pattern is familiar to you. So if you're having a go, just let that go, come back to your sort of normal middle position, whatever feels familiar. Notice how that might feel a little bit more sort of relaxed and easy to stand like that. And we'll have a look at the next reflex. So the second one we're going to look at is the red light reflex. Now this is the reflex of withdrawal, of kind of collapse and protection. So this is, if you heard a big bang going off or something, we are wired to protect ourselves, and we do that by kind of everything collapsing inward to protect all of this kind of soft stuff, this important stuff in the front. And so what happens in our body is our belly contracts. If I go sideways on again, our belly contracts, so our back kind of rounds out and everything turns in down at the bottom. So our knees come in towards each other, our toes come in, and our shoulders round forwards, arms roll in. So you can see I'm sort of dangling forwards. And again, if it was complete, sort of collapsing inwards, our head would also come down. But because we want to look towards where we're going, we're looking down at the floor, and then we just let the gaze float up, and then we're in this sort of position. And if you had a little walk around, you might notice how hard it is to move, maybe how hard it is to breathe. And we feel maybe like an older person, right? And so if we just let that go, come back to our normal, we might notice again that you feel more relaxed. It's a little bit easier to breathe. And that's the sort of posture we can get into if we are carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, if, we feel very anxious, worried, the world feels like a threatening place to us. And again, I'm exaggerating these, of course, but over time, these postures build up, these contractions in our muscles that pull us into these positions, and it becomes habitual. I'll come back to that in a minute. And the third reflex is what Thomas Hanna called the trauma reflex, or you might hear it referred to as the one-sided reflex. And that's where something's going on in one side that is not the same in the other. So maybe you've had like an injury, you've hurt your knee, something like that, and so you've not been able to put weight on that leg. So wonderfully, your body has done something to protect that knee, and it's tightened up on this side, so you don't have to put as much weight on the painful leg. But what happens is over time we forget how to release that. So even when the knee's better, we might still have this contraction in our side. And it can look in all sorts of different ways, the trauma reflex, this one-sided reflex. And it's not just to do with trauma or injury, it can just be to do with handedness. Because maybe you sit a certain way at the computer as you work, you know, because of your handedness. So that can build up over time. So in somatics, we look at these reflexes, we learn to understand them and how they show up for us as individuals. And it won't be that one of us is green light and one of us is red light and one of us is trauma. What we find is that we all have a mixture of those sort of patterns. And when we can identify that a little bit more in our bodies, we use somatic movement to both sense that and to learn how to release the muscles that are holding tight so that we can come into, you know, positions and movement that serves us a little bit better. No one of those reflexes is bad. They're all fantastic when we want to get things done, when we need to protect ourselves, when we've injured ourselves and we need to, you know, make that right. The problem comes when we forget how to let go of the muscle tension that brings us into those positions, those postures. And that's what somatic movement can help us with.